So Dana White finally did it. He gave us the main event for UFC 300. It's going to be Jamahal Hill versus Alex Pereira. I personally don't think that it's too bad of a main event. I give this main event like a 5 out of 10 compared to what Dana White and the UFC were like hyping up, because they told us that they were going to give us a main event and fights that were like unbelievable to us, right? I think everybody, in the MMA community could kind of agree that, this fight isn't, super crazy, but I do think that it's going to be a great fight nonetheless. I think that this is a fight that we were going to see anyways, right? Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira. So why not see it at UFC 300? Um, I understand the outrage and I understand the frustration from most fans, because from what I'm seeing, I feel like most fans were trying to see something like McGregor versus Ngannou type level good, and I think that with all the fights being booked right now, that would be pretty difficult to do. Now, I understand that the UFC were having issues getting a main event. And if this is the best that they can do, it's whatever. It's really whatever, to be honest. I don't think it's a bad fight by any means. I think that the UFC did it the best they could. Hopefully this fight delivers, and hopefully this fight, is able to be entertaining in the way that I think it probably will be. Of course, we know that Alex Pereira is one of the best strikers that the UFC has ever seen, and we know that Jamal Hill isn't a slouch either. This guy absolutely likes to stand and bang. He has great skills in terms of striking, and I feel like it would be a great fight for both guys, right? Because it would, obviously do well for Alex Pereira's legacy if he's able to beat someone like Jamal Hill, who is a former champion. And I think this is a great opportunity for Jamal Hill, because he has an opportunity to potentially win the title again and become the champion in the light heavyweight division. But I think we have one more fight that the UFC hasn't announced yet, and I could give you guys some ideas of what I personally think it is. Now, in the post press conference for UFC 298, Dana White mentioned Leon Edwards and how he said yes to 3 fights, and I think it would be pretty irrelevant to name him right in the post press conference if the UFC didn't have plans of him being in UFC 300. Of course, we know that Leon Edwards wants to be pretty active this year. He wants to fight at UFC 300 and then probably fight again during the summer. So in my opinion, I feel like the UFC is probably going to add Leon Edwards somewhere in UFC 300. Personally, I think they're going to add him for the co-main event. Maybe we see him against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Maybe we see him against Bilal Muhammad. And yesterday there was a couple shows right before the UFC 298 card where we saw Bilal Muhammad, pretty much just going on and on, talking about how he deserved to fight for the title next. So in my opinion, I feel like that's probably the fight that we're gonna see happen at UFC 300 if UFC decides to add Leon Edwards onto the card. Currently, I feel like UFC 299 rivals the big event that is going to be UFC 300. I think that right now there's a lot of arguments and good arguments as to why UFC 299 is a better card. And honestly, I do agree with some of the takes. Some of the takes aren't that really well thought out, if I'm being completely honest. But there's some people out there that have some really great things to say about this situation. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Are you guys freaking ecstatic about UFC 300? Were you guys expecting more from the UFC announcing Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill? Are you guys disappointed? I know that there's a lot of people out there that are, they say that, oh, this fight isn't UFC 300 worthy. But like I said, I do believe that this fight is going to be entertaining, and I do believe that this fight, it is 300 worthy, because it's a fight that we were going to see anyways, and it's probably a main event that could have happened anytime this year. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And let me know down in the comment section below, would adding Leon Edwards to the card make the card more exciting or any better? I think that it would. Anytime we have fighters that are fighting for high stakes, right? Like title eliminators or fighting for the title itself, those are fights that, generally the fans would love to see. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't see a little bit of more title eliminator type fights in UFC 300, if I'm being completely honest. I think that the UFC kind of missed in some departments, because there's a lot of people out there that are talking about some fights that they would rather not see, especially from one particular fighter that hasn't even fought in the UFC yet, but she gets the right to fight at UFC 300. And there's a whole list of fighters out there that have been veterans of the sport that could have fought at UFC 300 instead. But if I'm being completely honest, I feel like adding Leon Edwards to the card will probably save the card because obviously it's going to be a title fight. Now, let me know down in the comment section below. Would you guys rather see Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Leon Edwards, which I think would be a very interesting fight because Shavkat is a guy who just walks through punches to get a hold of his opponents and submit them on the cage. I think right now there's a lot of people that would rather see that fight instead of seeing Leon Edwards fight Bilal Muhammad because, of course, the MMA community is the MMA community, and right now Bilal Muhammad isn't like a super fan favorite. But this is a chance for Bilal Muhammad to kind of switch that around. You know, if they do give Bilal Muhammad an opportunity to fight Leon Edwards at UFC 300, this is his time to shine. This is his time to like prove all the doubters wrong. This is his time to like make a real spectacle of the situation. And hopefully, you know, if they do give him that opportunity, that he follows through with that and gives us a good watch and gives us a good performance of what he's really able to do. Of course, we know that the likelihood of that happening, in my opinion, is pretty low, given the fact that it's going to be close to Ramadan. And I don't really expect to see Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards. But, you know, if the UFC is like, hey, this is your opportunity right now, I'm wondering whether or not he'll take that opportunity. But leave me your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, it's a pleasure talking to each and every single one of you guys. Peace out and have a good one.